So I'm Emma Tamplin, I'm the Collaboration Manager at Quartig, and I'm responsible for delivering a number of services at Quartig. We manage and deliver a number of resources available to girls and women, such as leadership, such as Step to Non-Exec, such as Not Just for Boys, lots of resources available to help women set up in businesses as well, such as today's session. And we also work closely with businesses to create workplace structures that support the progression of women in the workplace. So I'm going to co-host today's session alongside Sarah Rees. Sarah's going to be doing all the fun stuff and I'll be asking Sarah all the questions afterwards. So Quartig, for those of you who don't know who Quartig are, we are the leading gender equality charity here in Wales, and since 1992 we have been working to ensure that women can enter the workplace, develop skills and build rewarding careers. And at Quartig, we have a vision where every woman and girl is treated equally and is able to fully participate in the economy and in public and political life and live safe from violence and fear. And we offer a number of services that can support girls and women and businesses across Wales. And we also work with government in Wales to ensure that women have a platform for their voices to be heard and to ensure that our country is fair and inclusive as well. So we've got, today's session is actually the second in a series of 3 webinars that we are running to provide business support for women. We had our first session last week, which went really, really well. And we've got today's session with Sarah Rees, which is all about, is there an idea in me? And we also have our 3rd session tomorrow. So we're back to back on these webinars this week. And it's all about financing your business, and that will be delivered with Business Wales. So today's session, is there an idea in me? It's all about looking at the possibilities of turning a seed of an idea into an action plan, and we will touch on areas you need to cover in a business plan and how to turn what you enjoy into a way of earning money. We'll also be looking at how you can create an elevator pitch as well. And by the end of the workshop, you'll have a set of tools to enable you to set up some SMART goals and how you can achieve those. And as I mentioned, we've got 2 amazing female entrepreneurs with us today. The first one is Dr. Yumna Mohammed, and she has set up her own business called Mayana Naturals. We'll be hearing very soon from Yumna, and then a bit later on in the session, we'll be hearing from Stacey Grant-Canham from Black and Beach, who set up an amazing business selling and designing feminist jewellery. And if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely incredible. So go check it out. We'll send you all the links to these later. So now I'm going to hand you over to Sarah, and Sarah will start the session with you.
Hello, well, thank you. I'm glad that everyone's come back. The pressure's on today because you gave so much lovely feedback last week that I feel like I'm under pressure to deliver the same level again today. So hopefully I do. Just for Emma, I'll run things slightly differently, and I'll talk to Yumna and then Stacey straight through, so that I know that both these lovely women are very busy with their businesses and they'll want to get back to that. And then once we've spoken to both women, I'll be able to move into the work that we are going to do together, and we'll go from there. So welcome to Yumna and Stacey. Thank you for taking the time to join us. You're both amazing women in business, and I think it's really valuable for people to have the chance to talk to you. So I wanted to start off with a couple of questions, and then I'll see if the audience wanted to join in and ask some questions as well. So first of all, and Yumna, if you'd like to go first, can you tell us a little bit about your business?
So hi Sarah, hi Emma, hi Stacey, hi everybody who is tuning in. So my name is Yumna Mohammed, and my business is called Mayana Naturals. And actually, very much like the title of this webinar says, I had a little idea, and for a very long time it stayed an idea, and it's actually a challenge that I face in my life every single day. So to kind of give you a little bit of background, I'm from a little island in the Indian Ocean called Mayotte. And over there, like, you know, the process of taking care of Afro hair is quite a family type of process. Women will get together over Sunday, and actually my mom will do my hair and my sister's hair. And, you know, working, when I first moved to the UK and I was a student, I had all of the time of the world to do my hair. But when I started working, the difficulty of washing and especially conditioning Afro hair became very, very tedious, because to simply apply lotion to Afro hair it's almost like a 4-step process. You part your hair into different sections, apply it to the hair, and then detangle it. And so for me, that process easily took 40 minutes to just apply one single lotion. And the thing is, women with Afro hair, the hair is quite dry. So not only you apply conditioner, but you apply also a leave-in conditioner. So that process was being repeated over a couple of times in the same day, and it was taking lots of time. So I came up with the idea of developing an applicator comb that enabled to apply, distribute, and detangle all at the same time. So that's pretty much where I am right now. It's a very exciting journey, and yeah, that's what it is for now. So yeah.
Wow, you can see mine and Stacey's eyes lit up because we're both super curly, and we need one of those in our lives.
I did see Stacey's eyes.
Such a good idea.
Stacey, if you would like to share with us, please.
Yeah, hi. I'm like, take my credit card, Uma. I want the comb. So I started Black and Beach 4 years ago while I was on maternity leave. I had my first child, Clement, and basically I saw a product and I thought I could do my own twist on it and do it in a way that I would have preferred. So what it was that lots of my mom friends were wearing these beaded necklaces that their babies could play with and interact with while breastfeeding and clutching and cuddling, and they were kind of called teething jewelry. They were made of silicone, and I thought it was such a great idea because my son was pinching me and pulling my hair and this kind of thing when feeding, but I really didn't like how they looked. I thought they were very not in line with like my taste. So I did some research and I found my own beads, but I basically made my own kind of version, but all in black and wood, and they were quite minimalist, quite sort of a different design aesthetic. So I took through my kind of design background into these products. But I started with a couple of £100, bought some beads, sort of sold a few necklaces to a few friends, and then just really slowly grew it to the point where it's kind of really radically quite different now. I stopped doing the teething jewelry a couple of years ago because I couldn't keep up with the physical making, and also in 2016-17 there was a lot of things happening in politics, Brexit, Donald Trump, and different things, and I think the feminist mother in me was very much ignited by these things. So I brought out a t-shirt which said "A mother's place is in the resistance," and we gave a donation from the sales of those t-shirts to a charity that I still support called Abortion Support Network. They help, at the time abortion was illegal in Ireland, and I'm originally from Ireland, so this felt like a really, really important charity that I wanted to work with. So yeah, we kind of went from this space of making products for new mothers into a kind of space which is much more about political, feminist, pro-choice mothers, really. And around that time, the repeal movement in Ireland was really taking shape, and the campaign to legalise abortion and things like that. So I took a really big risk to align myself with that agenda, and I think that was probably the best sort of business decision I ever made, really. And I think my business has just grown in that very organic way still. You know, I do lots of different products, so we sell lots of books, like lots of intersectional feminist books, kids books, but we also still do lots of slogan t-shirts that are made as sort of sustainably and ethically as possible, jewelry as mentioned, but this year we went into some knitted accessories for Christmas, which have been really successful. So it's a very kind of fluid business and quite multi-product, but the underlying ethos is a kind of a feminist agenda, I suppose I would say.
Thank you. I've got that exact print on my wall right in front of me. A mother's place is in the resistance is what keeps me going. So could I ask you both, what was your inspiration? You mentioned that you both had a nugget of an idea, but what was the inspiration to take that next step?
The idea, to be honest, it was an idea for 2 years. And for 2 years, I didn't do anything until I got in this phase of my life where I was getting very unsettled, in the sense that I was working as an academic in a university, but I felt that there was much more in me that I was not actualizing. So I actually decided to find a life coach. And that has been an amazing process, because sometimes when we have an idea or we want to do stuff in our life, we actually not aware of the things that might be holding us back from actually taking that jump. And in that process, which is actually very much a self-discovery process, it's really enabled to bring to light everything that was stopping me from doing it. So one that was, we are in a small committee here, so I'll feel free to share. So one of them that, was really holding me back, for example, it was, the pressure of the expected from my family and my parents to go back home, get married, and have a family and all of this sort of thing, because my family is not here, my family is back home in my yard. And so I was torn apart between following this idea, but actually, if I decide to follow this idea, I cannot go back home and actually be there for them. So until I had actually even realized all of these different things that holding me back, and then make up my own choice about why I wanted this business and why I deciding to actually follow it, my energy was always swinging. I was doing things, but I was not full on it. So I think, for me, that whole space where I really got to know myself. When we say know ourselves, we very often think, oh, we need to know our strength, but we actually need to know our weaknesses. We need to know what is also called self-limiting beliefs that, they are not necessarily true, but because it's all we know, we literally almost internalize them, and they hold us back from so many different things. So once that work was done, I just saw myself just being more in tune with what I wanted. And even, when I enter space, I slowly managed to find my voice and actually challenge a situation or things that I didn't agree with at work, and then at the same time pursue my business. So for me, the mindset is so important. Really, really, the mindset is so important. So that was really the one thing that really get me to actually pursue it with a much more stronger energy. So understanding why I wanted the business, but also understanding what were the reason I was scared to pursue the business.
That's an amazing answer. Thank you. It's like you know what's coming next, because we are going to talk about some of those issues actually, and how we do put those blocks in front of ourselves. Stacey, maybe you would like to say if there's anything that, how long did you have your idea? Was there anything that you had as blocks before you actually took that leap into
I still have a lot of blocks,
business?
actually. I still have a lot of blocks, and listening to Yumna is really inspiring for me as well. Like, I think I need that life coach. I think it's so much as our backgrounds, isn't it? So my dad had been an entrepreneur. He was a tailor, but he had suffered a kind of catastrophic illness when he was in his 40s, and I was really young. So I have grown up always being incredibly afraid of having a business, being the breadwinner, that kind of situation of my family background. And it's really interesting to hear what Yumna is saying, because it's definitely a self-limiting belief. I'm actually quite aware of it, but I'm not sure I have the tools to fully navigate it at present. But I also am an academic part-time, so there's a lot of crossover here, and I saw my business as, I suppose, what millennials would call a side hustle, but it has a lot of stuff has happened in the last 3-4 months with COVID and the increase of just online sales. It's probably been the busiest we've ever been, and also, kind of actually most profitable. Like, we're kind of getting the products right and things like that. So I'm definitely at a point of transition. But back to the question, which is, how long was I sort of sitting with my idea? So I would say I'm an ideas person in general, not always brilliant at following them through. Also, the self-limiting beliefs, I'll come up with a concept or an idea, and I'm like, no, that won't work, and I'll find all the reasons why it wouldn't work, and I'll kind of, go back to my safe space. I think the reason I did pursue what I did with Black and Beach is it was so low risk. So there was a very small amount of money. If it failed and didn't work, no skin off my nose. I had a backup job. I had another, you know, I had the security. So that gave me the kind of sort of, yeah. And I also decided that done was better than perfect. I think that happens a lot with businesses. I've literally just written down perfection is the enemy of good as well. And this isn't just business, but you know, we're trying to refine the idea so much so that it's so perfect that in the meantime someone else is going to come out with that thing. Or, you know, I think I would listen to a podcast where someone said, you know, you can continue to refine it once it's out in the world. You can get the packaging better, you can get the customer service better, or whatever those refinement parts are, but if you don't put it out there, you'll regret it. Like the idea for the knitwear that I just did, I had that idea 3 years ago and I didn't have the courage to take the risk because the minimum orders were really high, and maybe I didn't have the audience for the product. There was lots of reasons, and now I've just gone, yeah, I'm doing it, and they've kind of sold out so many times and they've been really successful. And I'm kind of now in this point of, we're wrapping up on Friday for Christmas and it's reflection mode, and so I think for me, it all comes back to your belief system, doesn't it? And like, can I take this risk? And I think there's a lot of people actually out there who are like, yeah, start a business, and they don't, you know, it is a lot of risk, and you do need to be confident and comfortable with the level of risk you're prepared to take. And you can do it in the way I did, which was very low risk, and then grow it slowly, carefully, and build it that way as well. You don't have to be, you know, a tech giant startup. You can do things quite slowly and carefully and bring your customers along with you that way. So I don't know if I've answered the question or I've gone off on a tangent, sorry.
No, I think that's really useful, and it's stuff that we're going to come back to later. Can I ask you both, what's been the hardest thing that you've had to manage in your business?
I think the hardest thing that I have to manage is actually happening right now. I pretty much are in a very same situation than what Stacey has referred to. And it's been a very unsettling decision to take. So I have a design and the working mechanism work, but the ergonomy just doesn't feel right. It just, you know, something is kind of, you know, so I had to take the decision, am I working on it to improve it? Especially, you know, the financial cost of actually making injection molding, which is a manufacturing technique, is really high. So I had to take the decision, am I, you know, stepping back 2 months and actually getting this thing right and actually hiring professionals to work on it, or am I putting it as it is? It's been a very unsettling decision to take. And, you know, is, you know, as you say, you have almost like that feel of a dagger on your head. You're just like, oh, you know, I have to move fast, but at the same time, I have to move carefully because, you know, this is not like, it's not like 20 pounds to actually manufacture this. It's quite loads of money. So that has been the hardest decision I have to take, you know, because you just kind of like wondering, is this the right decisions, you know? And at the end of the day, I think right now my decision is taken that I think thankfully I believe, like, you know, it's only ergonomy, so we are not going to be working on a mechanism, but it's just like at some point I just had to take a decision and be at peace with it. And sometimes I think the most important thing is, you know, as long as you know why you took that decision, and then you just leave the rest to fate and see what happens. So, you know, I'm trying to push as much as hard as I can regarding everything else that needs to be done. But that one thing, I just feel like, you know, if I get it, if just like as an end user, if it goes wrong, it's a high cost that needs to go back into the business, and it could potentially deter people from wanting to use it. So there is lots of, I will say, ownership into having a business, because at the end of the day, sometimes you have to take a decision, and you'll have nobody else to actually blame for it but yourself. So yeah, so that has been the hardest thing, and it's been I don't know if Stacey can relate to this. It's been quite emotional for me to take this decision. It's like, should I not, should I? And yeah, so I'm literally going through it right now.
Oh, and who do you go to for support when you're trying to figure out some of those decisions?
So I go to different places. So I have an advisory board. So they're very helpful to actually guide me, and a sounding board to, you know, to actually, you know, tell them what I intend to do and then get that feedback, because there are people who have been through the process as entrepreneurs or people who have been supporting entrepreneurs. But I also still coach. I still have my life coach, because sometimes it's really interesting what I'm finding out, and that's what I found out with work. Actually, some of the problem I'm finding in my business are very much sometimes are really not to do with the business. They're really much to do with me as an individual, of having the clarity, or sometimes having to take a decision that you might think that might not be approved by the other people that kind of like advising you or supervising you. So it's that whole process of, like, you know, the coaching aspect is my safe space to just, you know, have that sounding board to myself and keep on growing. Because sometimes, for example, when you hear things that people tell you, things that some can be very valuable and actually you should implement, there might be a bit of pride holding you back. There might be a bit of, you know, lots of different things holding you back. So that coaching space allowed me to question myself as an individual and always keep growing. And that actually enabled to bring all of that into the business, into my relationship with the advisory board, into my relationship with my intern. Because as you're going to the business, you are growing as an individual. You're starting alone, then you have to refer to people with advisor. You need to manage people. So all of that experience as an individual, as you're going through that growth process, I find it very healthy and very useful for me to create a safe space for me to keep on learning and seeing what are the walls that might be affecting the way I manage those different spaces or those different relationships. So yeah, my advisory board and my coaching space.
Amazing. Before I come to you, Stacey, if we could just ask if anyone wants to put in the chat box any questions that they have, and then we can come to them whilst we can get through those after we've spoken to Stacey. The hardest bits for your business?
I think working in the business, not on the business this year. So I used to, excuse me, use a fulfillment center where all my stock was in England. So when the orders came through my website, they fulfilled all the orders, and that's freed up a lot of time for me to do development or customer service or, you know, social media, whatever. At the start of COVID, I kind of was a bit disappointed in the service that they were providing, and I looked at the kind of figures, and I was like, I'm not really sure I want to do this. And I also thought that that coronavirus was going to wipe out my business. You know, no one knew what was going to happen, etc. So I pulled out of my fulfillment center and I brought it back to Cardiff, and I've been kind of fulfilling some things myself. My husband does 2 days, and then I use kind of independent freelance people who'll come in and help and support and everything. But I would say, although financially it's made lots of sense and we've seen more profit in the business, I've been doing the wrong thing. I've been packing orders when I should be planning, you know, 12 months down the line and that kind of thing. So I think the biggest challenge has been trying to put those boundaries in place and create the structures and systems to allow the business to grow. And that's my plan for next year, is how I can put those things in place. And there's conversations happening with peers and kind of other people about how we can combine forces to a certain extent and things like that. So I would say the biggest challenge is that, and time, never having enough time to do all the things I want to do, because this isn't my main job, which is really challenging.
One thing we're going to come to actually is time, and how you feel and how you notice when you're anxious because you're running out of time. Do you have any kind of ways that you notice when, you know, things are getting on top of you, and how you can start to claw back some of your sanity?
The only thing I tried, I don't know if I'm very good at it. That's the thing. I'm a terrible panelist because I'm just like, no, I'm not very good at it. The couple of things I do is I sort of do a brain dump, and I'll write down all the tasks or things. And what I've started to do is prioritize them. Instead of it just being a list, I actually number it, and I'll put the quick wins, like things that take me 5-10 minutes, they're done first. And then what's the most critical thing? And then I'll just move. Like if I don't get everything on the list done, that's fine. I'll carry it over to the next day. And I used to have one, like a live document like that on a monthly basis in the business with different headings, you know, kind of marketing or product development, whatever it might be. And again, things I don't get done roll over to the next month. And that was quite a good way of keeping track of where I was at with things. yeah, I don't have any foolproof tips. I've got loads of things I know work, but I don't do them. Like, you know, exercising and I just, yeah, I'm terrible, Sarah. What do you think?
A little thing actually, that I had a meeting recently with someone who works for Mind Cymru, the mental health charity, and we were both saying in this meeting how, you know, you kind of have this endless to-do list and you don't get to the bottom of it and you just perpetually are feeling rubbish about yourself. So we started to use, between us, these tiny post-it notes, and every time I've done something, you know, and it could just be I've sent off 10 emails that I needed to get through, I'll write it on one of these, stick it on my wall, and then at the end of the week you can see everything that you've actually achieved. Because sometimes, yeah, you know, mundane things like going through emails, you don't feel like you've achieved anything, but in reality you've been speaking to a lot of different people.
That's a really good tip. Yeah, reverse engineering it almost, of what I've done, not what I have to do. I'm going to try that. Yeah,
it's been really, really helpful. What about you, Una, before we come to any questions from our audience? And you were nodding quite a few times there.
It's as Stacey says, it's all about the system, and I am not a very disciplined person naturally. I was that little girl, well, you know, that used to start her homework at 9 p.m. and my sister being mad at me is like, what's wrong with this girl? But one thing that I've been really forcing myself to actually do is to be disciplined. And what I mean is not, and look at things in a very holistic way, you know, putting a system in place of, you know, working out, making sure to sleep, all of those different things. And what I got to just kind of, you know, make sure that I am okay to actually do the stuff that needs to be done to start with. So that is actually one of the big thing, because, you know, just, you know, I don't know, but, you know, just simple thing like taking, I mean, this morning I was dancing in the kitchen because I was a bit stressed and I didn't have time to actually work out, which is actually the way I distress. So I danced a bit and now I'm here, I'm jolly, joyful and ready to go. So finding those pockets of moment where you take care of yourself, I think is very important. And what I do when it's come to the doing of things, I just go through, I just kind of like have a top things of things I want to achieve that day. And I'm like, if I achieve that, I'm good, you know. And I think one thing that is really important, I guess we all do it differently, is actually celebrating our efforts, you know. So just like, you know, tap myself in the shoulder and thanks myself for actually putting myself through this process, because why will somebody put themselves through these things? But, you know, if you have an idea and you're pursuing it, you're literally kind of, the way I see it is you're honoring yourself. You're honoring your dreams, you're honoring your desires. So, you know, celebrate and congratulate yourself for just actually trying it, you know, and just, you know, as I say, having like setting goals of what you want to achieve that day. That's kind of like quite important thing. And the rest, I think, is one thing that I'm trying to learn, especially with COVID right now, working at home, is that rest is actually productive. Because sometimes we stretch ourselves into trying to do so many different things, and the next day you're just done. You know, it's Wednesday and you're just like, you know what, I'm exhausted, I can't work no more. So actually taking the time off, you're actually being more productive. And it's a hard one to actually implement, but it's so true. I'm really still learning to actually put these disciplines in place to not, you know, to not go back to my bad habits of, you know, that 11 years old girl that started her homework at 9 p.m. and then panic.
Yep, I was that person too. Give me a deadline and I'll wait until the final day to get those things done. Let's change that.
Terrible, terrible.
Okay, are there any questions that have come through, Emma?
Yes, we've got some questions coming through. I just want to say thank you both to Stacey and Yumna for those honest answers as well. They're very interesting, and I think there's a lot of people nodding at home to a lot of those responses. So we have a question from Donna, who mentioned she's lacking in confidence with digital skills. I know we mentioned this last week, so just perhaps we could hear from Stacey and Yumna. You know, how did they sort of develop and build their confidence in digital skills and marketing their brand as well? Should we go to Stacey first?
I'll go first. Oh, that's a good question. I would say that my business is very heavily linked to Instagram. So I just started an Instagram account, and I did, in retrospect, I have done a few little bits of kind of training. Digital Mums is really a really good resource for women on how to use social media for business. I didn't actually use that myself, but I've seen it kind of come up. I did do a couple of little kind of workshopy things, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend them. I think one thing I would say about Instagram is it's very much about building a community behind the scenes of like-minded people who will support you, and you can ask questions and who will help you. And it's all about, I think people think it's like, I put my product up there, people see it, they buy it, but no one will actually see your posts or your product if you're not engaging with them. So it's very much, I think, seeing social media as a conversation with your audience, and that's how you will build an audience, because people will want to have that conversation. In regards to digital skills generally, I suppose I'm fairly savvy. I had my husband built my first website with WordPress, which I would say that WordPress is really challenging if you're not very tech. If you want to create a website for a product-based business like mine, Etsy is already there, so you could try Etsy. Shopify would be the kind of the best one for e-commerce, in my opinion. There's a cost associated with it though, so if you wanted to test out an idea, Etsy is good because you only pay fees when you've sold a product. I think you pay 20 cents to list a product, so it's not massive. And lots of people have, issues. They say that Etsy takes too much, but I think, what you're getting for nothing is pretty good. I know there's lots of different kind of general training online. I would say Sarah might know more about this in terms of like just general digital skills. For different programs and things. There's the obvious paid ones like Skillshare, or and I have done some Skillshare courses. You can sign up for a free trial and take advantage. And I think I did some with another lynda.com. So yeah, just take as much free stuff as you can get. Figure out what skill you need. You might think that it's really intimidating, and the whole world of digital is massive. So what is it that you need? Do you need help building a website? Do you need help with your social media? Do you need help designing something using software? Figure out what exactly that you need to upskill in, and really focus on that. And there's always people, if you have the cash, there's always people that you can pay to do some of those things. Like Yuma, you were talking about the injection molding, and I was thinking about CAD designers. They're amazing at that, and I think sometimes small entrepreneurs spend so much time retraining and trying to learn a program, and I just think it sucks a lot of your energy, and you're never going to become the best at that program in that space of time. So if you can outsource that to someone who can do it quickly and efficiently and effectively, do consider that as well.
Yep, my husband is an accountant, and quite often I'll say, can you show me how to do this on a spreadsheet? And I'll say, but give me the absolutely quick, it has to be done in 30 seconds explanation, because he would go through an hour of explaining how to do A, B, and C. And I think, but I only need to do this once. It's not worth me training and learning all of that, because I'm only going to do it once and maybe do it again in 12 months time. Website wise, I set up my website with Squarespace. I think it cost about £120 to set it up. I'm not techie in that sense of using back ends of websites, and Squarespace is very much, do you want it to look this pretty or do you want it to look that pretty? And you just pick an option and you type in, and it's all kind of done for you. And when I got to a point where I found it was quite tricky, because I wanted to do something that was interactive, that was the point I paid an expert to show me how to do something. And I think it cost me £200, and he built that part, but he sat with me as we built it together. And so I had a kind of training process of how I could do that again myself. So it was a good investment.
Yeah.
So it's thinking forwards, isn't it, about stuff like that?
Mm.
How about you, Yumna? Is there anything you wanted to add on that before we move to another question?
So I will say, I will repeat what Stacy said. For a very long time, when this, like, like 4 years ago, I was trying to learn how to do CAD. Unfortunately, I'm a scientist, but I don't necessarily have the specific skills that I need to bring my idea to life. And then one day I realized, it's about, losing control and letting control, So I had to come to term that, I couldn't do it and I need to find it somebody. And right now, that's kind of interesting because it's regarding digital marketing, very much like Stacy, Facebook and Instagram will be important thing. And the thing is, with e-commerce, even before you start selling, it's important to actually have a community of people that you speak to. So I'm learning to, I'm a Facebook kind of generation type of person. And now this whole Instagram thing, and I'm like, oh my God, somebody tagged me in a story. What am I supposed to do? So it's been a bit like, it's a learning process. And I think for a very long time, I tend to freeze and just think, oh my God, I don't know what to do. It has to be perfect. It has to be perfect. And I just like, you know what? This is my mindset literally just shifted the last 2 weeks where I'm just like, you are alone. There is no team. It's never going to be perfect. Just do what you can do, And the thing is, as you're posting and you get to see how people interact, you're just like, oh, a little bit more of this and a little less of this, And what works for me, I am very observant. So I go around observing other people's channel, what is it that makes you look good? What is it that get people to interact with them? Just kind of, you're not copying what they're doing, but just kind of like think about the almost the psychology behind when they're actually trying to build all of these different things. And by doing that, it kind of, it just kind of give me a bit of guidance, but still keeping in mind the message I want to send, the people I want to communicate with. And I think I'm just gonna keep doing this, because until I have the finance to actually hire somebody to do it, he will have to do something that is just gonna be organic and grow in the process. So sometimes you just have to take a deep breath and and cut yourself, be kind with yourself, and you say, you know what, I'm gonna do this and I'm gonna learn. In the process is never gonna be perfect. Pretty much, Stacey, we're going back to perfection is is the enemy of good. So
I think that people respond to the realness. Now, this could be something I'm telling myself, because I am just an open book, so that's just who I am. But I think that builds a real connection with your audience. Like, I go on Instagram stories without makeup on, looking, rubbish or whatever, because I hate the filtered nature of women on social media. And I think, well, why do I want to perpetuate that? I just want to be me, warts and all. And some people will really respond to that. And if they don't, they're probably not the right audience anyway. So I think just having that sense of confidence, like, you have a brilliant idea and you just have to keep coming back to that, like, I need these people to see my idea, because if they do, they're going to want it. And that's just what put that on a post-it and stick it on the wall and just keep talking about what you're doing, because it's brilliant.
I'm going to leave and kind of draw the questions to a close there, because we could spend the whole session talking to both of you, but I know that there's stuff I want our attendees to have for themselves and their businesses by the end of these 2 hours. So thank you so much. You're both amazing, and I want to do this all over again for another hour with a cup of coffee, just listening to everything that you have done. Is there very quickly, is there one kind of bit of advice that you would give to people to kind of take that leap or step?
Yumna, do you want to go first?
I will say, I will bring it back home again. I will bring it back home and say, work on yourself and know why you want this business. Just know whatever it might mean for you. If it's freedom, like walking away from, being in a space where you can create a safe space where you can be yourself as a professional and do things that you desire, pursue your idea. Is it financial freedom? Is it, to have more time to enjoy life and enjoy my family? Whatever it means to you, make sure you know that. If it's about giving back, know that, because in the hard time, when you're just like in your bed, it happens a lot. When you're just kind of wondering, like, I don't have the energy, I'm so tired, you remember why you do what you do, and then it brings back that passion, it brings back that motivation, and you're good to go. So do just take some time to reflect. It will help in the moment where you're a bit doubtful about why you do what you do.
Thank you.
I don't think I can top that, really. What could you do to take the leap? I think this idea of a safe space is so interesting, and I think that's why I was able to take the leap, was I felt safe because of the financial side of it. So I think putting things in place that make you feel like, if this doesn't work out, it will not destroy my confidence, it will not crush me, because I'm happy to take it, the risk, to a level that I'm happy with. But I don't know if that's just completely contradicted what Yumna said. I think it's so personal. It's so personal. But I think one of the things that has stuck with me is, if I don't do this, someone else will, and then how am I going to feel? Like, if I see that someone else has brought out, like that brush, if someone else brings it out, you're going to be like angry.
Yeah.
And I felt that about the knitwear. Like, the gloves that I did, I don't think anyone else has done anything like it before. I got to a point where I was like, if I don't do it and someone else does, I'll just quit the whole thing, because I'll be so furious. So if you feel like your idea is that solid, and you believe in the idea, and you think, if I don't do this, someone else will, then yeah, that's definitely the push you need to take a risk. And also, in the immortal words of Samuel Beckett, fail again, fail better. It's okay for it not to work. You can try again.
Exactly. It's all about learning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Take it into the next one.
Yeah. I was going to say, it's a self-discovery process. So even if it doesn't work out, the one thing is, anything you learn, you can reinvest it in so many different ways. That's what gave me the lead, also to be like, you know what, it's okay, I'm discovering myself. And that's the best thing out of life. You just grow in that process, and whatever you learn, you go into something else, so you can build from that something different than what you were already doing. So there is no loss, it's only wins.
Oh, well, thank you so much. That's been really, really amazing. I'll let you both go, because I know you're really busy, and I can't wait to order one of your combs, Yumna. And I already have most of Stacey's products, because I'm constantly asking if I can have this, and if she can please hold me back one of those, because I'm terrible at online shopping and I have a basket that I never purchase.
Oh, thank you. It's really nice to meet you all as well. And for you,
Indeed.
Sarah.
Lovely
Thank
meeting
you so
you
much.
both. Lovely meeting you both.
Bye.
Thank you both. We'll send round links to your websites and to your products as well later, and to the things that you mentioned. There was one question actually about a life coach, whether you can recommend, how does somebody find a life coach?
Well, I can tell you the one that I have, but I think the one important thing that you need to know when you're looking for a life coach, you need to also see you need to find a life coach which might have the similar values than you, or maybe the same experience than you, so that, just bring it a bit home. Like one of the big things that came through my coaching session, the first one, had to do with race, had to do with growing up and facing racism. And if, let's say, if I had brought that to somebody who was not who was not a minority, that couldn't have understood that, we will have been kind of like difficult to actually have that conversation, because they might, sometimes it's not just because we cannot connect with what we didn't experience. So you need to kind of also find somebody who, might have the same value, or you can have some sort of commonality, and then the rest is a bit of luck. I got lucky, she's amazing. So, but I would say, look around, look online, and I think the best thing is actually speak to somebody who has been through the process, because they will not only know what to advise you, but maybe I had 2 different coaches, and one of them I decided to walk away from it because it was not working out for me. So it's a bit of a touch and go type of thing until you find the right person. But yeah, it's totally worth the investment in you, to be honest.
Thanks, Yumna.
Okay,
That's okay.
Emma, if you wanted to take us to our poll, because I have no idea how to do that. That's my technical level gone, sorry.
No problem at all. Right, let's find the poll.
And yeah, feel free if you both wanted to go, if you're really busy, you know, you can hang around if you want to listen in. That's totally up to you. Thank you.
Okay, so on the screens now, Sarah, can you see this as well? Or is it just?
I can see this, yeah.
Right, okay, I'll leave it with you to talk through.
Amazing. So what I wanted to do is, and it's very much from the things that Yumna has been talking about actually, is I want you to be really honest with yourself and pick one of those reasons. Is that the reason that you haven't taken the plunge to set up your business? You know, these are the most popular things that people say of the reason why they're not going to take that leap, they're not going to take that jump. So if you could just, you know, gut feeling, click the first one that you think, yep, that's me. And then what we'll do is talk through them and see if we can find ways to overcome some of those blocks and some of those walls that we put up in front of ourselves. So I'll give you just a couple of seconds to do that.
Okay, we're waiting for a couple more to vote and then we should be done.
Amazing.
Okay. Okay, I will close the poll. And did you see the responses come up then? Oh, hang on, shame. There we go. There's the results.
There we are. Thank you. Okay, so the most popular response is not enough money. You know, that's an easy one, isn't it? Because it's quite easy for us all to say, you know, my product is going to cost this much money to develop and I just don't have that money. You know, the great tool that we've got there at the moment is the opportunity that Emma mentioned last week about the small fund that Business Wales have opened. So if it's money for your product, then I think you've really got to, you know, take action really quickly to get in an application and get that couple of £1,000, because that can be the difference. Personally, when I was setting up, I knew that I had nothing. I'd lost my job. I had no savings. I had nothing other than, I think, £200. I applied for a scheme that was being run through the job centre. I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head, but I will find it out for you because it is still running. And it's a small stipend that you can have for, I think it's 12 weeks. It's about, you know, it's only about £150 a month, but it's a small bit of money that can just, you know, help tide you over as you're going through those early business stages, and to not be totally financially reliant on someone else. But the other thing about money that we will come to later is that you need to make sure that you've got enough to cover your basics. You know, do you really have to strip down? Do you need Sky TV? Do you need a decent phone package? Could you go down to the you know, the smallest basic phone package? Do you need to be spending money on certain things? And it's easy to say, you know, a lot of those frivolous things, but quite often we can spend money without realizing we're spending it. So if you have a really strict budget of what you need, you know, to keep a roof over your head, keep yourself and your family fed, if you've got those basics, then everything else is a bonus. So, you know, it's really being honest about what you can give up and what you can live without. But money, again, is a personal thing. So I think I don't really want to talk too much about that, because again, that'll be stuff that will be mentioned next week, or no, tomorrow, not next week, as well. Things seem too daunting. Is there anyone who would like to share why they said that? Is there anything in particular that's daunting? You know, is it business plans? Is it people saying, what's your marketing plan? They were the things that I found daunting, that kind of threw me. But it's also a question or an answer that you tell yourself. Things are too daunting because I don't want to fail. And that really comes back to what Yumna was saying. Is it that things are too daunting, or is it that you're frightened of failing? Which brings us to the next most popular answer, that fear of failure. And I think it is, like Yumna says, it's about thinking what you can do to overcome those fears. What can you learn about yourself? You know, a fear is there because it's that animal instinct inside of us protecting us from a potential danger. So think what's behind the fear and how you can put systems in place to overcome some of those fears? Is it fear that people will laugh at you if you go wrong or if a mistake is made? Is it fear that nobody you know has gone into business? You know, there's no entrepreneurs in your family, there's no friends, there's nobody that's done this. And so you're going to be the first, and they're going to be looking at you, and you know, that brings on a pressure that you are then placing on yourself. There's a lot of different reasons. So I think it would be really great if you could take the time to sit down on your own and go through some of those different reasons and think, what is it that I'm really, you know, why am I putting up that barrier? Why am I putting up that wall? And I'll be totally honest with you, this is a safe space, and we've all, you know, everyone's been sharing so wonderfully that I have got probably about 2 or 3 business ideas myself of things that I want to work on, and I've done exactly the same. I've told myself I don't have enough time. I've told myself that things, you know, it all seems too much. I can't do all of that. I've already done it previously, and you know, that business has evolved. Do I really want to do this again? What will my family think because of other things that I've got on in my life? But maybe it's time, you know, to work with someone else. You know, we are going to set up a Facebook group that's a closed group for everyone. And maybe one thing that we need to do together is talk through some of these reasons, because talking through them will help us to understand ourselves better. If I could go to a presentation, Emma.
Sorry, bear with me.
That's okay.
Right. Is your presentation up?
It's on my screen, but I think I need the kind of, there was a button that came up earlier. Did I want to share my screen?
Just check that your presenter. For some reason you're not coming up on the presenter tab. Right, it's saying for me, right, let me just take it back. Okay, and I'll give it to you. There we go. You should have this now. You got it?
Yay, thank you very much.
There you go. Right.
Can everyone see this?
Yes.
Amazing. I'll quickly show you that because there's a picture there of some of the products that Stacey was talking about. And I've got 2 of those and bought one for a friend who says it's amazing. So I can vouch for all of those products. So these are some of the reasons that we were talking through. But what I wanted to do with you is give you the opportunity to practice positive self-talk. It's quite easy to tell ourselves that, you know, I can't do this, I'm not good enough to do this, I don't feel confident enough. It's easy to tell ourselves some of these negative things. So how do you turn it to a positive? I would like 1 or 2 of you to possibly post what's the way that you tell yourselves something positive, and maybe Emma could read out 1 or 2 of them. The one that I use, I quite often tell myself that I'm resilient, because resilience is something really hard to learn and to build. But if you just simply tell yourself, I feel resilient, then you will start to build up that strength and that protection of, you know, you're not going to be upset every time you get a knockback, because you know you're resilient, you know that things will get better. If no one's ready to share that right now, that's not a problem.
I have a couple actually, Sarah, that have just come through. One of our audience members mentioning one of her fears is that she won't be good enough to support people. Another person is saying, I save nice notes that people have written to me and I read them when I need a pep talk. And another audience member saying that they remind themselves that they are strong and adaptable.
Yeah.
And also another one is also, it helps if you ask people you really trust for some feedback of what you think you do well, your strengths. You'd be surprised with what they tell you.
Definitely.
Some great ones there.
Post-it notes. You know, whoever created post-it notes, that's a business I wish I had, because I've got millions of the things for different reasons. But when I deliver training courses, I you know, if there's a time between doing another one, I can often feel really, really nervous. You know, I was super nervous before doing this. And so what I do is in my training files, I keep little post-it notes where I ask people to write a love note, to write a message of one thing they enjoyed or one thing that they are taking away from that session. And I keep them dotted through all my notes so that when I'm preparing for the next one, I can see in front of me little positive reasons and reminders of why people thought something was good, so that I can start to turn that fear and that nervousness into something positive. And maybe it's just a case of something that you need to do for yourself just now and again. You know, if you feel that you've done a good job, send yourself an email and say, I'm really proud of what I did today, and these are the reasons I'm proud, and this is what I think I learned from that situation. And just keep a folder in your email so that when you feel a bit rubbish or a bit down about things, you can go to that positive file of information and just remind yourself how great you actually are. I'm going to have to move quite quickly because we've spent so much time talking to our wonderful guests that I'm concerned that we're not going to get through all the things I promised that we would. So first of all, I wanted to talk to you about a growth mindset. Someone called Carl Ronk set up this kind of idea of what a growth mindset is. And you can see the diagram there in front of you that shows what the different zones are in how we build a growth mindset. And the first one, right in the middle, is the comfort zone. It sounds really nice to be in a comfort zone. You know, when I think of that, I think of, you know, my favorite old pair of leggings that I shove on when it's my time of the month and I just want to cuddle up under a blanket. It's great and it's good to be comfortable, and there are times, you know, like when you've got your period, that you just need a little bit of comfort, but we don't want to live in that zone because it can end up becoming quite a negative space. You know, if you're always comfortable, if you're doing a job that you can do inside out, it doesn't, you know, there's no opportunity to learn, there's no challenges that you're facing, then you can become quite negative, and you know, you can become that person who says, well, nothing good ever happens to me. And maybe nothing good is happening because you're just in that basic level of lacking of challenge. I'd like to ask just quickly how you feel when you know that you're in that comfort zone. You know, how do you know when you're lacking challenge, when you're not open to opportunity? Is there anything that you particularly feel or you notice when you're in that comfort zone? I know that sometimes that's when I start to get itchy feet and I want to do something. You know, I think I'm in a job I enjoy, or I think I'm doing a project that I enjoy, and then I'm drifting out of that project and I'm starting to look for new opportunities, and I'm constantly distracted. That's when I know I'm in that comfort zone, because I haven't got enough to challenge me to stop me moving into those constant distractions.
We've got a few comments coming through, Sarah. I'll just read a few out.
Thank you.
So we've got negativity about myself. I just drift and feel stagnant. I get very frustrated. I want to change big things in my life instead of dealing with the actual problem. Feels like life is a lack of purpose, just a daily grind when I can't seem to cope with too many things going on.
Yeah, that's really, really great, because we all know what those zones are. At the other end of the scale, we've got this thing called the panic zone. This is when you're thrown into a high pressure situation. You know, maybe something's outside your experience or expertise. You could be working on something that's unfamiliar and it's got really high stakes. I'll tell you a quick story about I accepted a piece of work, and it was just, I hadn't realised actually when I accepted it that we'd be entering this coronavirus life, and it was to support something in politics. The first day of the job, I was told, right, you know, here's some equipment and you need to go home because every office is closing, and And so during that project, I realized that what I was going to have to do was hugely different. I wasn't going to be out and about talking to people in the community, which is what I'm good at and what I'm comfortable with. I was going to have to do something really, really different and respond to coronavirus. At the same time, I was taking some exams, and then schools closed. So what was I expected to be that kind of green part on that diagram there, that optimum level, I was expecting for this new thing to be a challenge, but a challenge that I knew I could overcome if I put the right things in place. So if I had the right childcare, if I knew you know, what days I'd be doing different projects, when I'd be able to study for my exams. But very, very quickly, I entered into that panic zone. And I have no idea what happened in May, if anyone asks me, because it became such a difficult time of trying to do so many things. You know, maybe the joy that come out of it is I was so bad at homeschooling that my children now love school and they want to go every day because I wasn't very good at it. But what I wanted to talk about more is, again, those feelings. So you can see that ticking time bomb there, you know, which shows all the feelings that you have when you're in that panic zone. So you can feel stressed, you feel overwhelmed, anxiety is high, headaches, you know, it starts to come out in you physically. It isn't just the mental strain that you feel. So I wanted, again, for you to just quickly drop into the chat box. If you could tell us how you feel. Do you notice when you're hitting that panic zone? You know, for me, I love food, I love eating, and I know when I'm in that panic zone because I forget to eat. And I think, you know, a normal day in my life, I would always think, what am I going to have for my dinner this evening? But on a panic zone day, I know that food is the last thing that I think of. So if I start to feel hungry because I haven't thought about food, then I know it's because I'm in that panic zone. If there's anything that's coming through there, it'd be really great, Emma, to share.
Yeah, we've got a couple coming through now, Sarah. So we've got, I just shut myself in the larder.
I love it.
Some people have health flare-ups as well.
Yeah.
Cannot think straight. I go for a walk to reset. I get emotional and question what I'm doing, and there has to be more to this life.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually. All of those, you know, I quite often, I have a kind of a stress-related eczema, and if I know I start to itch in my hands, then I know that that stress level's too high and I need to do something about it, because it only ever happens when I'm stressed. It doesn't happen for any other reason. So we all know that we've got those triggers, and you know, if you're not sure of what those triggers are, then maybe what we need to do is start to think about, you know, when you feel anxious, when you're you know, when your chest is tight, when your heart is beating a little faster, start to recognize the reasons that you're feeling like that. You know, have you got too huge a task list of things you want to do that day? Have you started to notice that when you give yourself too much to do, what are the feelings that you have, so that you can begin to recognize those and put things in place to kind of stop those things from happening. I wanted to move on to this amazing place, which is our learning zone. And this is a space where we've got challenge and we're able to come out of those comforts, but we feel safe and supported so that we don't end up in a panic. And one of the ways that we do that is to take small steps. You know, I always kind of give the analogy of a marathon. When I first started to run and I did a couch to 5K, you know, I was the shade of a tomato and running around, you know, the street that I live on. I don't think I got more than 5 minutes away before I had to stop, and I felt like things had got too much. You know, I wouldn't have then gone home and thought, right, I'm going to sign up for a marathon and I'm going to do that next weekend. You take small steps, and you know, that short run becomes 5 kilometers. You know, you push yourself from those 5 kilometers to do more and more and more until you can build up to that marathon. I started running about 10 years ago, and I still haven't got to the point of a marathon. I've done a half, but not a full. So there's always time for you to build on those steps. And you know, one thing why I like that analogy is because I'm able to remind myself of success. So I was teaching a class yesterday where I was showing people my vision board and things that inspire me. And one of the things that I hang on the side of that board are medals that I've had from different runs that I've done, because it reminds me that, you know, at the time doing a half marathon, I would always think to myself in those last kilometers, what the hell have I done this to myself for? I'm aching and I'm sore. But later I realized the huge achievement that it had, even if it did feel a bit uncomfortable towards the end of taking that on. So I wanted to ask you about the small steps that I asked you to challenge yourself with last week. Did you set yourself an action? And can you share with us in the chat box what that action was and how you achieved it? Maybe it's that you have an action, but you didn't achieve it. I'd still be really find it helpful if you'd share that action, even if you didn't achieve them, because I think, again, it's really good from what Yumna was saying to talk through the things that put you off from doing it. You know, what were the reasons that you put blocks in front of yourself? And maybe that's something that we can talk about. I put those blocks up all the time. So as much as I'm telling you this, you know, we're all human and we all have to continue to challenge ourselves with these things.
We've got a couple coming through, Sarah.
Thank you.
One audience member, I joined an abundance club and started a daily journal. Another person mentions writing to 10 potential clients to offer my services. Facing fear head on, and even though my pitch was not as good as it could have been, the fact I did a pitch, I was proud without freezing. I think that's a great one, isn't it?
I think they're amazing. You know, that one that said where they pitched to 10 clients, you know, they had a goal. They weren't just saying, oh, I'm going to pitch to somebody or I'm going to pitch to a client. You had a really fixed goal, and giving yourself a number like that of 10, that means that, you know, you're more likely to achieve success if you talk to 10 different people, even if it's just one or two of them that come back to you. One or two of those people, you've built a success out of that. And yeah, to do a pitch when you don't feel 100%, you know, I think that comes back to what Stacey was saying as well, of, you know, sometimes it's about taking action and doing. You know, we're never going to be 100%, but that doesn't mean that what we've already got isn't great. And that gives you the opportunity to learn and build on that. So if there aren't any more, maybe the next question that I wanted to ask is what you felt that you learned from those actions that you took for yourselves. I quite often give myself an appointment every week where I block it in my diary, and it's just half an hour or an hour, and I use that block to sit down with a coffee and a really nice pen and really nice paper. You know, I love stationery, so it's the way that encourages me to kind of feel like I am challenged and I'm inspired by having a really nice fountain pen. And I just write down and free write some of those things of what I think I've learned. Is there a question that I've had that week? And I think that it's really important that we do give ourselves that little bit of time. It isn't always about being busy all the time, because if you are really busy, like we all know, you can miss things that are important.
We've got a couple coming through now, Sarah. Donna mentions, I learned it's okay to not have all the answers and just go with the flow.
I like that one.
Heredita mentions, I need to start my own business with the idea that I have and stop trying to hang on to what I have always done.
That's a really brave step. Yeah, I like that one. I think on that one, I've just made a note of a book that's been recommended to me. And I haven't read it all, but I've kind of dipped in and out of it. And it's something called The Chimp Paradox. And this was a guy who was training Olympians. So he was giving them mindset training, and it's all about how to change your mindset and how to recognize, these different areas in ourselves. And one of the things that we do when we're in the panic zone is he explains it as it's your chimp brain, it's the animalistic side of you that's protecting you from previous negative experiences. So the way that we can grow out of that kind of animalistic response to something is to take those little steps so that we can make that learning zone, that growth zone, bigger. Right now you could be just outside of your comfort zone, and your learning zone maybe isn't very big. Maybe the thing in your panic zone at the moment is social media. So what you need to do and what you can do is put in little steps that help you to grow. Maybe if social media is the thing that you're concerned about that makes you panic, and so because you're panicking you decide to do nothing at all, instead of setting up a social media account for your business, what you could do is set up a personal one. Maybe it's a personal Instagram account where you can start to follow people and chat to people and build that community through yourself, rather than throwing out your business idea at the same time. And then once you've built that kind of learning and growth, and once you've realized how to have a conversation in a community, how to post a photo, how to use Instagram stories, but just doing it for fun, about something that you do in your personal life, about your hobbies, or maybe you like to walk and take nice photos when you walk, something that you're really comfortable but passionate about, and then that can help you to grow and learn, so that the thought of setting up a social media page for your business is no longer a panic. It's like, oh well, I know what to do and I know how to do it, and it's just a case of working through the different things that you have to achieve to get there. I wanted to put this slide up because it feels very much where I was last week. I had a crazy week last week with a huge debate in the Senedd that was happening at the same time as this and some other projects. And I kept saying to people around me, I feel like I'm drowning. I feel like I'm treading water. And what you can see in that image is, you want to be that person who's taken some steps and, has dipped a toe in the water, but you don't want to be out in the middle of the sea feeling like you're treading water and that you could drown at any moment. And I wanted to share that because it was literally what I was saying. I said, I feel like I'm treading water, and I've realized when I was looking for different images that this is the image that really explains that. And like I've already said, we need to recognize what our own danger signs are when we feel like we're drifting out to sea and everything could get on top of us. You need to start to recognize those. So what I do, and I find it really restorative. So last week I decided every single night I was going to bed at 9 o'clock, because I know when I'm anxious and when I'm busy, I don't sleep very well. So if I go to bed really early, I can wake up in the morning feeling revived. It doesn't matter if I've had a few restless hours, because I've gone to bed with enough time to still get in enough hours not to be grumpy and to have, a good working brain in my head. Is there anything that you do that you would like to share? Because I would love to learn more ways that I can overcome those anxious moments. It's really strange how it is that kind of chimp brain. I was constantly saying, I feel like I'm treading water, and that was obviously the chimp brain coming out in me, and having that impact.
We've got a couple coming through now, Sarah. Karen mentions box breathing. I'm not really sure what that is, but do you know what it is, Sarah?
It's amazing. Yeah, I do that actually before I come and do a session like this. I find this more nerve-wracking than teaching people live in person. I don't know why. Maybe it's because there's more attention on you and you can't deflect to other people in a room. So what you can do is take a deep breath and breathe in on a count of 4. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then breathe out on the same count of 4. And if you just start to build that, it's I learned it from a yoga teacher actually, and it helps you to calm down. But another one, I can't remember who it was. It was a lady called Wendy, and I can't remember her surname, but she's brilliant. I'm sure that you would know of her in Warrateg. And she runs a coaching business actually. I'm going to make a note because she would be a very good coach to recommend. And she told me that when you're panicking, when you're about to do a presentation and you feel like those nerves are hitting in, that what you can do is count backwards from 3, because the front part of your brain, which is the place where you have that panic and fear, it switches off when you do that simple activity of counting back from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And I hadn't realised that would be so effective. But every time I do a radio interview or a TV interview, or I'm having to give a speech at something, even if I ask a question here on something like this, and then I know that I'm waiting for the panelists to come to me to speak in a meeting, then I do that to just bring back that kind of fear and tension. And it really, really works. It's quite an amazing little tool. So thank you for that.
Was it Wendy Derrick by any chance, Sarah?
It is Wendy Derrick. She is an
you know.
absolute amazing woman and would
She
definitely
is.
be someone I would recommend.
I'm sure we can send out Wendy's details to our attendees today. We've got a couple of more of techniques that people use. Somebody mentioned that they take the dog to the beach or go and sit with the feral cats. I think pets are a great one, aren't they? Yeah. And she also mentions you cannot be upset when you're covered in cats, which spot on. How could you be upset if you're covered in cats? I think that's a really great one.
There's a reason that people have things like cat cafes, isn't it?
Absolutely, absolutely. They just bring so much joy. Another person mentions that they tend to deep breathe and try to look at the situation from outside the box. Donna mentioned share how you feel to someone you trust. Don't bottle up how you feel.
Definitely.
Meditation is helping me tremendously. There's a book, 5-second rule. I'd be interested to hear a bit more about that book, Liz.
Oh, I'm going to make a note of that.
Yeah, I'm going to have a Google later as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, another person mentioning about Wendy is a fantastic coach, so I'm sure Wendy's quite popular.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
She's probably, we're going to get lots of messages today off the back of this.
Oh, yeah, that'll be lovely actually. I'll have to get in touch with her to say. That's really, really useful. I think there's so many great things that come out of there. And one of my favourite ones actually that I hadn't thought of is ask my 7-year-old, because when I feel that things are on top of me, I'll ask her a question and it brings you back down to the sheer basics of things. So I was trying to explain how a friend of ours has broken up with their partner and we need to be caring and we need to think about them, and her response was, he's got a dog, there's no problem, he's got something that will make him feel happy. And sometimes you do just need a child to remind you of those basic things that we need to help ourselves feel happy and comfortable and confident. A quick couple of tips, and again, you will get this sent to you. Failure. I know that failure was mentioned earlier, and I wanted to quickly mention J.K. Rowling. She is probably, I think, isn't she the most successful female writer that we have of our time? And yet she'd sent out her first manuscript over 100 times before she had any success. So that's 100 no's before she got a yes. And it's really, hard. You've got to be really strong to come back from that. So you've got to give yourself these positive thoughts and these positive mantras to really pick yourself up each time you get those no's. It could be that person who said that they pitched to 10 clients. All 10 of them might say no, and that's going to be really, really hard. But that you have to, if you really believe in your idea, that you have to pick up from that and think the next pitch is going to work, because you will keep going. I think I might have mentioned it last week about someone who was saying that they have been applying for jobs and they had gone through 72 job interviews in the last 6 months before they were successful and got a job that they wanted. That's a hell of a lot of resilience that someone has to build up to go through that process. And it's exactly the same in setting up a business. You're going to go put your heart and soul into a lot of pitches, and a lot of people are going to say no to them, but you've got to find ways where you can think, this is what I can do to make myself feel good, and this is how I'm going to overcome it. We talked about our steps that we took. This is something that I'm going to give you actually as a bit of homework, because we did spend a lot more time talking to our guests than I'd planned to. So what I want you to do is imagine that you've got a mirror that's going to reflect on who you are. You hear a lot of these different phrases in business, how people buy from people, and it's your values that you're going to be selling as part of your product. It isn't just the piece that you're selling, it's part of yourself as well. So you need to learn and love the things that make you who you are. So what I want you to do is, and I'll send you a quick note on kind of how to do this as well. But I want you to ask someone that you trust to tell you what they love about you. And I want you to do it for yourself as well. Imagine that you're someone who is your best friend, be your own best friend. And if your best friend asks you this question, what are the greatest things about me? What would you say about yourself? So I'm going to save that as a homework task, because there's other stuff I really want you to get through today that I think is something that we need to talk through together. But that's one for you to save for later. Can you just give me a quick time check, Emma, because my clock seems to have disappeared from my screen, and I've not put a watch on today. I don't know why.
Yeah, it's 12:24.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Okay, so I wanted to introduce you to some people who I find really inspiring in business. You might have been to Big Moose Coffee if you're Cardiff or South Wales based. And Jeff and Chloe are the two people behind Big Moose. I wanted to share their business journey with you because there's a couple of really great points that you can get out of it. But just a little background. Jeff's best friend is an ice hockey player. And he said that, his friend, they did a lot through life together. And when he got cancer and sadly passed away, it made Jeff become hugely aware of his own mortality. And he vowed that he had to get the most out of every single minute that he had left on earth. And Chloe, his daughter, who I find super inspirational, she spent 2 years helping to feed rough sleepers in Cardiff. She's a really determined girl. She climbed Kilimanjaro when she was just 15. She's run a 42-mile ultra marathon. And when she was just 23, together, they opened Big Moose Coffee Shop. So their business journey, they said they opened in March in 2018, and by June, they were able to employ a homeless person and train them to become a barista. And this is something that they say quite a lot. They want to give people a hand up, not a handout. So they're all about supporting other people to be the best that they can be. And that is the reason behind their business. It's the inspiration of why they set it up. And it's what they remember every time they go through difficulties. Without COVID, and this year, for example, last year was really hard for them because there was a lot of building work going on around their cafe. And because they were known for supporting homeless people, there started to be a gathering of people who had a lot of issues like drug problems around the cafe, and it became difficult and unsafe for them to stay open because their staff were coming in to open up in the morning, and there'd be a lot of people that were that could be a danger to their staff, so they had to actually close the cafe for a while they sorted out that issue. You know, personally, Chloe herself, she's gone from being someone who has run ultra marathons to having kidney problems that she's had to overcome. And all of that they've had to do whilst running this amazing business. And why I wanted to talk about Chloe is because I saw her speak at an event, and she shared at that event, and she gave out cards that I have. I keep it on my vision board. She said that no matter the ups and downs that they have, she has got a 5-point plan that she constantly comes back to as part of her business. And those 5 points, and I will send this to you as well because it isn't on the slides. She says that you have to have a focus and be consistent. You have to be genuine, that people buy from people. You have to be ready and open to failure. And for her, she wants to leave a legacy. She wants to leave something behind. So everything that their coffee shop do, and you see it when you go in there, you see it on that big screen, you know, the inspirational quotes, and you know, you see the different activities, like all those people that you can see there in those t-shirts. That was the half marathon team, and they were running to raise funds for mental health support. And so they have this 3-point plan that everything they do has to support mental health, homelessness, and the prevention of suicide. And if you start to follow their social media, and maybe if you're able to go into their cafe, you'll see how those 3 goals are the consistency. That's the focus of everything that they do and everything they deliver. They constantly come back to those ideas. And I think that that is a really important lesson that we can have as we work towards putting together our own business plans. Is there any questions that you wanted to ask maybe about that before we move on? One of the best things about Big Moose as well is that their idea of a single cake portion and my idea are very different. So you always get like the hugest slab of cake for about £2.50, which is amazingly good value, and they're all baked on their site. You can tell that my stomach is where I think when I go to a lot of businesses and cafes.
It's such a great place, isn't it, Sarah? I absolutely love Big Moose, and yeah, I would echo the cake comments. They are amazing. The food is great, and yeah, pre-COVID, I would pop in there and do a bit of work from there for like a morning, tuck into the brunch and the cake. Yeah, hope to return very soon.
Definitely. I very quickly realized when I set up a business that, you know, I'd like to be inspired by being out and about. And so I started to focus my meetings on the cafes that I loved most of all. And this is one that features high on my list.
Such a good idea.
Right, if there's no questions, then we'll move on because we only have half an hour. So what I want you to do is to make sure that you have got a pen and paper, because the couple of activities that I'm going to run through with you are things that I want you to use your kind of gut response to. So I want you to answer really quickly. So, you know, it's something that is going to enable you to kick off from that blank sheet of paper. And from there, you'll be able to go away and use these few ideas that are really, you know, the gut responses to some of these questions, and you'll be able to use them to grow and to build a business plan. So I want you to quickly draw on a piece of paper a flower much like this one. It doesn't have to be very difficult. And I'm going to try and do this as I talk you through it because I wanted to be really open with you and share this idea that's been bubbling in the back of my head. And the challenge that I've had to myself actually is that I haven't shared this idea with anybody out loud. So I'm kind of overcoming the own blockage that I've had of not talking about it, because if I don't talk about it, it's not real. So it isn't a business idea because I've never ever told anybody. And right in the center of that flower, I want you to write down what your core idea is. So just a really short description of what that idea is, and just jot it down quickly there. I'll give you 30 seconds because I'm going to write down mine at the same time, and then I'll share it with you. Okay, so I have to be really brave now. My idea, and it's been bubbling for quite some time, and then has built on and on. And the idea is that I want to create a set of role model cards and an education pack on Welsh women that can inspire young girls. And I came up with that idea because my daughter is 7 years old, and I didn't feel that she had enough visible Welsh role models. She came home from school in September, for example, and said all the children are being put into groups about inspirational people. And she said, but I said to my teacher, Mummy, why was there only one woman? Why were all the other inspirational people men? And the only woman in that group of, I think, 8 inspirational people that they were going to learn about this year was Marie Curie. And I thought, well, that's great, and Marie Curie is wonderful, but what about all the brilliant women in Wales? And then I was looking at the campaign to have our first statue of a woman in Wales, and I thought, why isn't there something that will encourage young girls and inspire them to look up to, those 10 women that were in the final list of women who could be our first statue of a real Welsh woman. So that was my idea. But what I would love you to do is to take the plunge and to share your idea with us. If you just want to quickly type, just a quick sentence, so that we can get we can kind of see what some of the ideas are in our group. I'm going to have to take a picture of my flower as well, so you can see that artistry is not my top skill, and it's more about getting something out on paper rather than it looking perfect.
We've had one response so far, to be a successful life coach and well-being coach.
Oh, I love it. So there we are. We've got a coach to come to for all these people who've been asking about coaches that can help them in business.
Another great idea, showcase and support Welsh businesses through different social media platforms.
Oh, I like that one. I'd love to learn more about that.
Another really great one, horticulture for beginners. It's going to be snappier than that. Well, it sounds great. I'd be well up for that.
Definitely. It's not about being snappy right now. That can come later. Now it's just about getting your idea on paper. And that is a lovely one. I think, particularly this year, people have realised that there's more to life than work. And, it's about living and seeing growth. And I think horticulture is a way that can help people to feel really healthy. I'm not going to give a chance for many more, purely because I wanted to keep us on track with time. So next, what I want you to start doing is filling out those different petals. And the first one, I want you to think about your values. And I love this quote. I love Elvis Presley too. I'm not going to sing because then you'll all switch off. Values are like fingerprints. Nobody's are the same, but you leave them over everything you do. And I think that quote is really poignant, because it's like Stacey was saying, her business really changed when she started to think about her values and align her values to her business. So, if you have a look through her business journey on Instagram, you know, it started off making jewelry that she wanted because she couldn't find anything for herself, to really turning towards, you know, her roots and how she felt as a woman living in the UK and living here, who wasn't able to vote in Ireland on the abortion debate, and how she wanted to bring that feeling and those values into her business. And quite a lot of the things that she'll do is talk about, you know, a woman's role and, you know, compassion with ourselves, and how we can be feminist in different ways. So I want you to think, and maybe just start to jot them down into the chat box as well. Think about what your values are. You know, what is it that matters to you? And whilst you do that, I'll share with you a quick story of, I had a job interview years and years ago. And then the woman who was interviewing me, who didn't give me the job, she left that organisation, and I happened to be the person who had to clear out her office. And as I was clearing out the office, I found the notes that she'd made on my job interview, and she'd scrawled all over it, you know, this person just wants to help people. And I thought to myself, I'm not going to read any more. I don't want to hear any negative comments, because I know I didn't get the job, and we didn't particularly get on. But all I wanted to take from that, and it still sticks with me, is, yeah, I do just want to help people. And if that's what you took from me, that's no problem, because that's one of my core values. It's to help others and to help other people to be their best that they can be. And I keep that in mind, because, you know, she saw it as a negative because of the way it was scrawled across the paper with question marks and things. But to me, I was happy because I knew that's the value that I'd left, and that's what I wanted to leave behind with others. Is there anything that people would like to share of what their values are?
Yeah, we've got a couple coming through now. Success, fairness, growth and courage, all really important ones. Dedicated to the cause, enthusiastic, supportive and dedicated. Represent and enthuse youths of harsh backgrounds that they can become and achieve what they want to. That's wonderful, isn't it?
Yeah.
And another really great one. I love growing others. How wonderful is that?
Oh, I'm starting to get all tingly now of how amazing these are. I'm going to work us through really quickly, because there's a couple of tasks that I want us to make sure that you've got before the end of the session. So moving on to our next element and our next petal on this flower, I want you to think about a mission statement. So a mission statement is a single sentence of why your business should exist. What's that goal, and how are you going to achieve it? So what you do, how you do it, and why you do it. If you wanted to pop yours into the chat box, I'll quickly share, coming back to my idea of what I came up with there. And I didn't write anything down previously, because I wanted to do this alongside you. So my mission statement in this idea of role models, I said that I want women and girls in Wales to have easily accessible role models that they can look up to. So I want to create templates on amazing Welsh women for this, so that my daughter and others can have Welsh women to aspire to. And that's as easy as it is. It's just using your gut feeling of really breaking down to what is that core idea of what you want to do and how you want to achieve it. I'll maybe ask just one or two people to share something, and then we'll move straight on, because we've got a few more areas to work through.
Got one. Support businesses in Wales to achieve their potential through showcasing the incredible talent we have on offer, ultimately supporting Wales to become independent through a strong economy.
Wow, I like that one. I think I'm really piqued by that, particularly the independence part. You know, there's an opportunity there to really, you know, tag on to the Welsh independence movement, which is going hugely at the moment. So there's maybe opportunities there to meet and talk to people who'd be interested in your idea too. I won't ask for any more because I do need to move on to the next step. But again, you know, keep hold of these because we can share them together at another time. So the next one I want you to think of, and just write 2 or 3 words down, is what are your goals? We talked last week about some of these ideas, you know, the things that you want to do, but this time I want you to be more specific. You know, thinking back to what Yumna was saying, she really needed something that would help her to do, you know, to make her hair healthier quicker. She didn't want to go through 2 hours of having to put products in her hair. She needed a way to find it quicker. And that's the idea that kept her awake at night. It kept, you know, it made her restless in her day job. She really wanted to achieve this. So thinking to her, you know, she knew what she wanted to do, and it was to create a comb. And so what I want you to do, because you'll know what your business goal is to think of the 2 or 3 things that you really need to do to get that idea off the ground. What is it about your idea that keeps you up at night? What is it that you lie awake thinking about, thinking, you know, this product doesn't exist and I want to be the one to put it out there, or I've seen someone else that does it, but I know that I could do something better and my idea is better because, you know, I can bring something extra to it. For me in particular, that goal, I don't see any sort of role model cards that are based on Welsh women. And being close to Chwarae Teg, you know, I quite often see that they showcase amazing Welsh women all the time. But how do we put that in a way that's accessible to young people? So I'll give a quick opportunity for maybe someone who wants to share 1 or 2 of their goals for their business, and then I'll move straight on. While we wait for those to come through, I do want to quickly mention about SMART goals. Someone did this earlier when they set their goal last week. It's about having something that's specific, something that you can measure. So that person who said they were going to, you know, pitch to 10 people, something that's achievable. They said 10, not 100. It's realistic. You know, they had that pitch ready. They knew that it was achievable. They knew how many people they wanted to speak to. They knew they had the time to achieve those things, and timely. So that's why I gave you the week to achieve it. It had to be something that you could achieve within that week. And if you set yourself a time frame, you're more likely to achieve something. I would go into lots of stats there, but who needs to hear them? Just know that if you set yourself a goal with a time limit, you're much more likely to achieve it if you just write a long list and you don't add any time frames or days that you want to do things to them. If there's none that have come through.
I've got one actually.
Oh, amazing, thank you.
Got one from Anharad. For me, it's that there isn't really a product, it's an idea, but how do I grow it? The goal is to provide a platform that all Welsh businesses use, a go-to place for consumers.
Oh, I like that. The goal is to flesh out that idea then, isn't it? And to take steps to kind of look at how to take that forward. One thing that you might want to look at actually research-wise, I don't know whether anyone's following, there's a Twitter page that someone set up to support Welsh business. But that's been really successful, and I think they set it up in the middle of the pandemic to try and encourage people to shop local. And then
Sarah, sorry to interrupt you. That was actually Anharad who set that up, who's in the audience today.
Oh, you know, that's how life plays out, isn't it? I love that, and it's all that you know, what I'm doing at the moment alongside this kind of work. I'm working in South Wales West region with a Senedd member, and a lot of the conversation is about how to support small business, how to support our high streets, and you know, those micro businesses on the high street. And we have been talking about your Twitter page all the time, because you know, we've kind of said, why doesn't Welsh Government have one of these? Why doesn't Welsh Government have that kind of database? So yeah, you've already got your name out there. It's amazing. And a really good brand, actually, because a lot of people are saying so many positive things about it. So thank you for that. I love it when life plays out like this. I'm going to move through quickly because there is another task that I want us to do before we finish. But just to let you know, we might run over by about 5 minutes, possibly. So the next one is your product. What is it that you intend to sell? You know, I love that kind of, is it the next best thing since sliced bread? And I was looking, I kind of looked up innovative products when I was trying to find some pictures, and some of these I found cracking. You know, you could have amazing things like the person who invented the zip, or Lego. I wish I'd invented Lego, because that's just like printing money. You know, or that candle, a candle that then drips back in and makes a new candle. You know, it's an interesting product. I don't know whether it would work. Or do people really want a self-stirring mug? You know, there's lots of different ideas, but what is it that you specifically intend to sell? So I'll just give you a couple of seconds to go through that, and then if someone could type something into the chat box that they would like to sell. You know, maybe it's a service. There's a few people last week and this week who've mentioned that it isn't a product, it's more of a service that they want to provide. But again, you need to really think about what is that service, because you will have to sell it to people. You'll have to say the benefits of that service, whether it's coaching or, you know, business support. They're really essential services, but what is yours going to sell, and how are you going to do it differently to other people that are already out there?
Got a couple, Sarah.
Thank you.
Okay. So Liz Khan has mentioned that she would like to set up to empower others through creating craft stamps from their artwork, bringing our language back alive through craft stamps. And she would like to bring diverse Welsh artists to create those stamps.
Wow. If there's no more coming through, I'm going to move on. I'm conscious of the time because we have spent a lot of time learning from other people. So I want to move on to one that some people can find scary, is the marketing. So if you know that what you're going to sell, it's really important to think who you're selling it to. You know, what are the types of person? Is it men? Is it women? Is it international? Is it more of a local product? You know, are you going to have a range? So, for example, there was an example someone gave me when they were thinking about setting up a business. And they said that they wanted to set up a women's spa. They really talked, you know, and thought about who their customer would be. They said that they felt it would be women aged between 25 and 45, mostly professional people who have a disposable income, people who eat out, who like to enjoy a treat. They tend to join clubs. They want to feel special. They read magazines, glossy magazines, and they're interested in beauty products. They like to use social media, and so that would be a good place to market. They, the customer that they wanted to focus on was people who think about the planet, who are eco-friendly. So they wanted their products to reflect that. They had to think about how much the people were earning, and the kind of how they knew that their product was going to be different, because they knew what was out there, and that there were people they were talking to that weren't impressed. They wanted something that was more glamorous, that was more exclusive, something where you don't just go to the spa and have a massage and leave again, something that was more of an experience, but maybe not in a hotel. The ups and downs of those different things. It's very hypothetical to come up with the person who purchases your products and who you're going to sell to. But once you've got that hypothetical person, you can start to get out there and talk to them, and then you can build up that real character. So maybe have a quick think, is it a new market? Is there competition? Make a list of the competition for your particular idea, and start to look at the good things that they do, the things that maybe they don't do so well. Do they have people asking them for something that that person just doesn't want to create? Looking back to those stamps, I know that a lot of people use creative stamps for different things. What makes your idea really different to those, and what makes you stand out? Because I know that finding something like that you really want, that really reflects your idea, you keep buying back from over and over and over. Again, I am going to move quickly because I'm conscious that we'll run out of time. So the next thing I want you to do, and to fill in the next petal, is to think about your action plan. If you were going to write a to-do list, then what would be the 3 or 4 things to get your business off the ground that you have to do right now? What can you not move forward with until you've done these things? I've kind of thought of the analogy of a shopping list. I know that when I go to the supermarket without a shopping list, it's chaos. I overspend. I'm running back and forth to the different aisles because I've forgotten something that I needed in a previous one. I don't have any meals planned. So without that kind of action plan, you can be all over the place. And it is very similar to a shopping list. It is a really simple list. And like we said, think about being smart with those activities, but think about the things that you want to do. If someone wants to type some into that chat box, whilst you do that, I'll share with you some that I have for this idea of mine. And so I know that if I wanted to come up with a set of cards that would look at role models, I have to make a list of who those original role models would be. Is it going to be 10 people, 20 people? What would be affordable? What would be something that my customer would want? Would they want a pack of 10 or 20, or would they just want to buy 1 or 2 as a picture frame, for example? Would I have to engage a designer because you want to see my flower picture? It is something that I think my 3-year-old would be better at coming up with. I know that design isn't my flair, and it's not something that I would feel that I could learn because I just don't have the talent alongside some of those skills. So then I'd have to think about the finances for some of those things. Where am I going to find my suppliers? Where am I going to, to find out how much things cost? Who would be the original people that I'd sell to, and how much product would I be able to buy to sell to them? These are all the questions that come out as you start to think of those action plans. If there's anyone who wanted to share anything, Emma, and then we'll move on.
Yeah, we've got one in actually from Donna. Complete my setting up business and marketing skills. Right, complete my setting up business and marketing skills 4-day course in June, as it is postponed due to COVID. Learn more digital skills and continue with my own life coaching. Maybe now's a good time to mention tomorrow's session with Business Wales will also cover a variety of resources that they have available for you to tap into as well. And I was chatting to Carla last week, who's actually going to be delivering tomorrow's session, and she mentioned that there are sessions that they can run around digital skills and online marketing as well. So that would be really helpful to you, I think.
Amazing. We'll move on because there's a couple more to just get through. And I'm conscious of time because I know that people might have to go and do something else. So finally is finances. And I only wanted to go over this quickly because you are obviously going to talk about it tomorrow. But for me, in my business experience, I made a list of the absolute core things that I had to spend in order to get started. So at the time I didn't have my own laptop because previously I'd only used work laptops. So I knew I needed to have some IT. You know, I think really about what you'd love to have, because it's nice to have things like pretty business cards that make things feel real. But do you need them in this day and age particularly? Or could you, instead of spending out money on that, set up a social media page which you know, can be the face of your business? It doesn't have to be a website. A marketing expert that I speak to, she says that websites are quite old and, you know, they take a lot of time and a lot of money to keep up. But instead what you could do is utilize your social media, because that's the front of your business. People can Google or they can do any sort of search on how to find your business. And they can use your social media as that landing page. You don't need to spend out on an expensive website. And also think about your personal finances. You know, have a checklist. Business Wales will have them because I've used them from Business Wales. You know, what are the absolute bottom line bits of income that you need in order to pay your basic bills? You know, you need to pay your rent, you need to have food on the table, and you need to pay those basics. What are the things that you can't cut down on? You know, maybe you've got a loan for a car, and so you can't cut down on that because it's an outgoing that is not going to change. So I won't go any more into those because, again, you will talk about it tomorrow. I did want to go through this process of mind mapping, because what you've done and what that flower is it's your basics of a business plan. And so what I wanted you to do, but we haven't got time to do that today, maybe I'll try and record something, or I'll send you some notes via Emma so that you can run through this. But what I do is I use that flower and that kind of idea to give you the basics of a business plan. You know, all the different elements that you need. If you look up and if you look at Business Wales, you know, a business plan needs a list of contents. You've got that. All those petals are your list of contents. You need an executive summary. You need your values and your mission statement. You need to know who you're selling to, what your goals are to achieve your business, what your product is. You need to have an action plan and a timeline, and you need to have a financial strategy. So all those things that could have looked scary before you joined this, you have those because that's what that flower is. And so what I wanted to do, but you'll be able to do in your own time, is to use those basics and this mind mapping process so that you can build on that business plan. You know, rather than just writing out a long list of things or, you know, writing a template for different things, I use this mind mapping process because it's really helpful to gather all of those ideas together. I don't know about you, but I quite often feel that, you know, when you're in a business frame of mind, you've got lots of ideas and lots of balls that you're juggling. And this process is really helpful to bring those balls down in a sensible way. So you can use it to map out your idea. And this is an example of how you can use that mind mapping process to flesh out your business plan. And really, it's as simple as you write your idea in the middle. You develop those subtopics, which are things like your product, you know, the finances, your strategy for your business, and you start to answer all of those questions. And then you just use that process to follow that business plan. So you've got all your ideas on that one piece of paper to start fleshing out your business plan. I use these quite a lot, even if it's just making my list of things I want to do that week. because I know I'm working on lots of different projects, so I can break them down into different projects by using different colours for each one, using symbols instead of long drawn out sentences, so it can be really, really quick, where things can link up and I can get something done once rather than doing it twice for different clients, for example. So that's a really useful process, but I'll send you some notes so that you can go through that in your own time, because I know we've had to rush through it today. And finally, and you're only going to have 5 minutes to do it, but I want you to come up with your elevator pitch. So an elevator pitch is just a very quick description of your idea, your product. It explains the concept in a way that anybody, no matter who they are, can understand. And the whole concept of an elevator pitch, if you've not heard of it before, is to imagine that you've bumped into that perfect investor in a lift and you've only got the 20 or 30 seconds that it takes for them to go to the floor that they want, to share your idea and get their interest before they leave. So there are a couple of things that you have to do. Firstly, what's your idea? Write down one sentence that explains your idea to that general person on the street or in that elevator or lift. And if someone could write theirs down into the chat box. It's basically turning that phrase that we had in the centre of our flower into a cohesive sentence that's easy to understand. Has there anything come through? Or
Not as yet, Sarah.
okay, don't worry, because we are running through this quickly, so it's something that you can hone in your own time. So the next step is to talk about you. There's lots of businesses out there that need investment, so you need to get across what is it about your idea and you as a person that will get them to pick you. And come back to those things that our guests were saying earlier, because I really wanted to buy into their ideas because I was sold on them as people, not just the product that they had. So I really want to know more about their product because of how they sold their journey as people. The next step is to talk about your unique selling point, your USP. And that comes back to our marketing question. How is your product different and what makes your product stand out? So Stacey's product, for example, stands out because she makes sure that her products are created locally. The wool for her new collection is Italian wool because that is the best wool available that isn't itchy. But that wool is then, she designs it and it's made in the UK, in Scotland. And she makes sure she knows who the people are that are creating those things for her business. She tries to use local designers where she can to build those things on her designs. So that's her unique selling point. You know that you're buying a product that has been made safely and eco-friendly, and people have been paid a fair wage, because that fits her idea of having a feminist business. And the final thing that I want you to do as part of that elevator pitch is to end with a question. Because if you have an open-ended finish to your elevator pitch, then you're able to engage that person in a conversation rather than closing off at the end of it. You don't want them to just say, oh, thanks very much, I'm not interested. You want to have that thing that piques their idea. So looking at Yumna's idea, for example, I'm really intrigued as to how she's designed a comb that will do all those things. I'm intrigued to learn more about what that idea is, because I think, and particularly at the moment, there's a whole movement around curly hair and taking care of curly hair and different kind of hair products. And so I think that she'll get really good engagement because it's something that is really relevant and current at the moment. Now, I know we've had to run through that really, really quickly because of the time that we've had. But like I said, I will make sure that you have notes so that you can do that in your own time. And before we do leave, because we have slightly run over time, I just wanted to know if there were any questions that people wanted to ask before we leave.
While we wait for those to come through, Sarah, we can just remind people that if they do think of a question outside of the webinar today, we can answer those offline and just get back to them via email. So if you do think of anything tonight while you're lying in bed or in the shower first thing in the morning, because that's when all my sort of thoughts enter my head, please just drop me an email and we can answer those offline and get back to you.
Yeah, definitely. And if I can just use this opportunity to say thank you as well. I've really, really enjoyed this and I've learned so much from all of your input as well. It's been amazing. I wanted to leave this on the screen whilst people come up with questions because it was something that I found when I was doing some research, and I just thought it was really simple way to think about setting up a business when there's so many different things that run through your mind. And we've talked about some of them today. We've talked about, you know, whether being an entrepreneur is for us, you know, the kind of business that you want. Talked about ways that you can start to do research and to delve into social media and how that can help. You know, we've got the basics of a business plan. Some of the more straightforward things that Business Wales will be able to help you with, and you know, there's really good advice out on the internet, is how to choose the business structure. Do you want to be self-employed? Do you want to set up as a small business? You know, do you want to set up as a social enterprise? There's lots of different models out there, and Business Wales have got really good advice to talk you through some of those. Paperwork, again, that is one that the Business Wales will be really, really helpful in talking you through. So what we've given you are the basics of that business plan, and those early days of working out your, you know, how you as a person, and the entrepreneurship is what you want. And then Business Wales can help you with some of those more practical things like the structure and the finances and the paperwork that you need to complete in order to make sure that you follow the law side of business and the, you know, those straightforward tick boxes that you have to have.
We've got a couple of questions for you, Sarah.
Okay.
Asking if they could get a copy of the slides. I'm sure that would be fine. We could send those across.
Yeah, definitely.
Liz mentions that she's had to adapt her whole business due to her disability so that she can create everything in her house, but yet with funding, we are asked for board members. How do you find these people if you are a CIC working from home shielding?
Social media is really good for that. Talking to different people, you know, I'm sure that Emma, you have got lots of people that would be interested in being board members. Put an advert out there. You know, the Women's Equality Network, for example, they've got a huge network of women, of organisations. Talk to Disability Wales because they will know people. Ask the question, I think, is the main thing I'm trying to say. If you ask people for help, all of a sudden you'll have a list of people that say, I'm interested in that. Yeah, I could give you a couple of hours a week to be a board member and talk through some of those things. The opportunity is out there right now because some people have got more time because of COVID. You know, they don't have a commute, they maybe are on furlough, and this is a really good opportunity that they can have to build up their own experience in CV. So there are great people out there that would be willing to be board members. You just have to take that brave step to ask.
Absolutely, and I'll just wanted to add, Liz, if you want to send us, you know, a few words about what you're looking for, then I'm sure we can circulate that amongst our contacts at Quaranteg as well and help you find those board members that you want. And there's also the Women's Entrepreneurship Hub as well, which is based at the University of South Wales. I'm sure they would be able to help you.
definitely.
And lots of thank yous coming in as well, Sarah, thanking you for a great session, which I must
It's been so enjoyable. Thank you so much. I'm really intrigued to learn about lots more of these ideas, and I love the serendipity of saying how I loved that particular page on Twitter that was sharing businesses, because I think that's such a wonderful idea, and I can't wait to see it grow.
Absolutely, and I think, you know, we can continue these conversations on Facebook as well. I know we're going to set up a group for you and send you the link, so you can keep chatting to each other and hopefully help each other on your journeys as well.
Definitely. Well, I'm sorry I took you over time. I'm hoping 10 minutes is okay. It hasn't taken you too far. You can all go and enjoy a coffee and maybe something to eat now. You can tell I'm back in my comfort zone and in my stretch zone, because I'm thinking about food now rather than just panicking of what piece of work I have to do next.
Thank you, Sarah, for that session. I will just take the screen back and I'll put my contact details up, and if anybody needs any help from me. There's also the session to think about tomorrow as well, which will be starting at 11. So that session is all about how to finance your business, and it will be with Business Wales. Okay, I'm hoping you can see my screen now.
Yeah, I can see it.
Brilliant. So you have my contact details. If you need anything, please drop me an email, or if any questions pop into your head that you want to ask Sarah, just drop me an email tomorrow, and you know, I can ask Sarah for you and get back in touch with you. As I mentioned, we have got. Oh, sorry, Sarah, go on.
I'm happy to share my contact details if people want them as well.
Fantastic. We will definitely send out the contact details, the slides. The session's also been recorded as well, so we can send the recording out. And if you haven't already registered for the session tomorrow, please do. If you need the link, just drop me an email. I can send you the link, or we can include in the email that automatically sends from the session today anyway. When you close the session, there will be a couple of questions, like some feedback questions. If you could just spend a couple of seconds just answering those for us, that'll help us make any improvements for the future. And just want to say massive thank you to Sarah for your time today. You've been awesome as always, and I'm sure everybody at home has taken so much out of today and is already buzzing thinking about what their ideas are and how they're going to progress them. So it would be great if we could continue these conversations via Facebook, and it would be really amazing to see how well you're progressing as well. So please drop me an email from time to time, let me know how you're getting on, or if you need any further support. I'm sure we'll be able to help you. And Business Wales tomorrow, they've got a wealth of support services that they'll be able to offer to you. So please join us for tomorrow's session. It's the final session. These come around very quickly. And just want to thank everybody at home for their time today and for all the honest feedback and questions as well that you've been asking. So just thank you, everybody. And I look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. And thank you, Sarah. Massive congratulations. It was a really great session. Thank you.
Thank you. And have a lovely Christmas to everyone as well.
Absolutely, yes. I'm sure there's going to be more guidance out today on the plans for Christmas, but regardless, have a great Christmas, everybody, and stay safe.